Before I start, let me ask you something. What makes a mother? Is it blood? Or is it love? Is it sacrifice? Or staying when everyone else walks away? This is my story. A story about love, betrayal, and a truth that changed my life forever. My name is Laura, and for most of my life, I believed I was just an ordinary woman with an ordinary family. I lived in a quiet town in the United States, where people waved at each other from their porches and knew your name before you even introduced yourself. I worked as a school librarian, surrounded by children's laughter, worn-out books, and the soft smell of paper and glue. My life wasn't perfect, but it felt complete. At least that's what I told myself. Every morning I woke up before the sun. I made breakfast, packed lunches, tied shoelaces with sleepy fingers. I kissed scraped knees and dried tears after nightmares. And every single day, a little girl with big brown eyes and messy hair wrapped her arms around me and said the word that gave my life meaning. Mom. Her name was Emily. She came into my life when she was just 3 years old, too small to understand the pain she carried, too young to remember the woman who gave birth to her. From the very first day, she held my hand like she had always belonged there, and I let myself believe she did. I met Emily because of my husband, David. David and I had been married for 5 years. We loved each other deeply. But there was one ache in our marriage that never went away. We couldn't have children. Doctors gave us explanations, numbers, and cold medical words, but no hope. I cried in sterile rooms. I smiled through baby showers. I learned how to swallow my pain so no one else felt uncomfortable. David tried to be strong for me, but I could see the sadness in his eyes too. Then one evening, he came home, unusually quiet. "I need to tell you something," he said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. I thought he was going to leave me. Instead, he told me he had a daughter from a relationship before we met. The child's mother had passed away suddenly. There was no family left who could care for her. She was alone. "She needs us," he said softly. "And I need you." I was shocked, hurt, confused. But when he brought Emily home a week later, everything changed. She stood in our doorway, clutching a tiny pink backpack. Her eyes were scared, her voice barely a whisper. "Hi," she said. I knelt down and opened my arms without thinking. She ran into them. That was the moment I became a mother. Emily never asked about her biological mother, not at first. She called me Laura for only 2 weeks. One night, after I tucked her into bed, she grabbed my hand and asked, "Can I call you Mom?" I cried so hard I had to turn away so she wouldn't see. From then on, I was Mom. I learned how she liked her sandwiches cut. I learned that thunderstorms scared her. I learned she hated math but loved drawing animals. I learned how to braid hair, how to sit through school plays, how to stay up all night when she had the flu. I loved her fiercely, and I believed she loved me too. David seemed relieved, like a weight had been lifted from him. Sometimes, though, I noticed things I couldn't explain. He avoided conversations about Emily's past. He changed the subject when paperwork came in the mail. He insisted we never talk about adoption. "She's ours," he'd say. "That's all that matters." I agreed. I wanted to agree. When Emily turned 10, she came home from school quieter than usual. "What's wrong?" I asked. She hesitated. "A girl in my class said I don't look like you." I laughed gently. "Families don't have to look the same, sweetheart." She nodded, but I could tell the question stayed with her. That night she asked, Was I adopted? I froze. David answered quickly from across the room. No? Why would you think that? Emily shrugged, just wondering, but her eyes searched my face. Something inside me shifted that night after Emily went to sleep. I asked David again, "Are you sure there's nothing you're hiding from me?" He kissed my forehead. "You worry too much." I let it go. I always did. Emily grew into a beautiful, sensitive teenager. She still called me Mom. She still held my hand in public, even when other kids teased her for it. I thought we were unbreakable. Then, one afternoon, everything fell apart. I was cleaning out old files in the garage, looking for tax documents. In a box marked medical records, I found an envelope that didn't belong to us. Inside was a birth certificate. Emily's name was there. David's name was there. But the mother's name, it wasn't who I thought it was. It was someone I knew. My hands started shaking. I read the name again, and again, and again. The woman who gave birth to Emily wasn't dead. She had been alive the whole time, and worse. She was someone who had been part of my life. I sat on the cold garage floor, the papers slipping from my fingers, my heart pounding so loudly I thought I might pass out. The little girl who had called me Mom for years was never supposed to be mine, and the truth was darker than I ever imagined. The name on that birth certificate belonged to Rachel. Rachel was my younger sister. I felt sick. My own blood. My own family. The woman I trusted more than anyone besides my husband was alive. And she was Emily's real mother. I heard the front door open. David was home. I didn't rush inside. My legs felt weak, like they no longer belonged to me. I folded the paper carefully and held it against my chest. When I finally walked into the house, David looked at my face and knew immediately. "Where did you find it?" he asked quietly. That question was my answer. "You knew," I whispered. "You always knew." He tried to speak, but I raised my hand. "Don't," I said. "Just don't lie anymore." He sat down slowly, like the truth weighed as much on him as it did on me. Rachel and David had been together years before he met me. It was short, messy, a mistake, he said. When Rachel got pregnant, she panicked. She wasn't ready to be a mother. She wanted to disappear. When Emily was born, Rachel left. She didn't die. She ran. She asked David to take the baby and promised she'd come back one day when she was ready. That day never came. "You loved her," I said. "You let her call me Mom." David's voice cracked. "You were the best thing that ever happened to her." That didn't make it hurt less. That made it worse. I drove to Rachel's house the next morning. She lived only 2 towns away. All those years. She was that close. When she opened the door and saw me, her face went pale. "You know," she said, "I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just asked one question. How could you let her call me Mom?" Rachel burst into tears. "I thought it was better this way." She sobbed. She was happy. "You were happy. You stole my life," I said. "And you stole her truth." Rachel said she stayed away because she was ashamed. Because she thought Emily was better without her. Because watching from a distance was easier than facing what she had done. "You don't get to decide that," I said. She had no answer. The hardest part wasn't confronting David. It wasn't confronting Rachel. It was looking at Emily and knowing her world was about to shatter. She was 15 when we told her. She sat on the couch between us, confused by our serious faces. "Am I in trouble?" she asked. "No," I said quickly, pulling her close. "Never," David told her slowly, carefully, gently. By the time he finished, Emily's face was empty, like something inside her had gone quiet. She looked at me. "Are you still my mom?" That question broke me. I held her face in my hands and cried openly. I chose you, I said, every single day. No one can take that away. She cried into my chest like she used to when she was little. But something changed that day. Not love, trust. Emily wanted to meet Rachel. I offered to go with her, but she said no. I need to do this alone, she said. I waited in the car while she went inside. I watched my daughter walk toward a woman who shared her face. I didn't feel replaced. I felt erased. When Emily came back, her eyes were red. She said she loved me, Emily whispered. But she doesn't know me. I nodded. Neither of us spoke the rest of the drive home. After that, Emily stopped calling me mom in front of other people. At home, sometimes she still did. Sometimes she didn't. Every time she hesitated, it felt like a small cut. She spent weekends with Rachel, asked questions I couldn't answer, learned pieces of herself that didn't come from me. And I had to let her. Because loving someone means letting them know the truth, even when it hurts you. David tried to fix things, but something between us had broken too. You should have told me, I said one night. I was afraid to lose you, he replied. You lost me anyway, I whispered. On Emily's 18th birthday, she handed me a letter. I wrote this for you, she said nervously. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, she wrote, You didn't give birth to me, but you gave me a life. You stayed when others ran. You are my mom because you chose to be. I cried harder than I ever had. She hugged me and said the words I was afraid I'd never hear again. Mom, some families are born from blood. Others are born from choice. And sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones tested the most. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Real stories like this deserve to be heard. Thank you for listening.